date them for his time, so one of
I would
them is,
hope so.
yeah, exactly, that's right, so at the same time, that'd be kind of difficult, wouldn't it? Talk about a hard childbirth. So that's kind of where we're getting into the story. So they've been kind of told who's going to be the one in charge, or who's going to be the one that's going to serve the other. So we're already told that. So we're getting here to our focus verses starting in verse 24 through 28. When her time came to give birth, there were indeed twins in her womb. The first one came out red-looking, covered with hair, like a fur coat, and they named him Esau. Can you imagine? After this, his brother came out, gasping Esau's heel with his hand. So he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when they were born. Oh my goodness, I could not. No, I'm only 58, and I've been on that short that age.
I think Tina had a baby and she's.
No, indeed. No, indeed. When the boys grew up, Esau became an expert hunter and outdoorsman, but Jacob was a quiet man who stayed at home. Isaac loved Esau because he had a taste for wild game, but Rebekah loved Jacob.
That was
And
her baby.
Huh?
That was her baby.
That was her baby, and it was the one that wasn't the outdoorsy kind of guy. He was the.
Say it.
I can relate. I was the baby, and I'm the nerd, so I can kind of relate. The quiet one. My youngest is an introvert, kind of quiet person. So
Yeah.
I can relate. I can relate
Yay,
to that.
Good morning.
So could two kids be any more different than these two? I have that in my children and stuff like that. Most of Cindy's kids are pretty similar. They're all kind of very.
But Melanie and Grace
They're very much. All of them are kind of extroverted. Not one of them less than the others. But mine are like dead opposite. When I say that, my daughter is not quite super extrovert, but she is more extrovert than my son. My son is like a complete introvert. And he's more like me, so I relate to him in that relation. We have granddaughters that they're just two of our granddaughters are just dead opposites. I mean, one is the extrovert. She's out there playing with all of her friends. She is just like never meets a stranger kind of person. And the other one is just so quiet, keeps to herself.
Well, I was just about to say that it's cool to see how your grandkids are so much like their parents.
Yeah.
It's like, because I tell Blake, which is our middle one, I tell him all the time, his oldest son is like raising him all over again. Exactly the same. His middle one and his daughter are total opposite than the oldest one. They're like mellow and chill. That oldest one, it's like, ooh, he gonna get.
Well, and Melena loves to read, and my mother was a reader. She still loves to read. And you ask her what she's doing, she's reading a book. And Melena was like that, you know.
Yeah, it's cool to see them see that they're like their grandparents too.
Yeah.
You see the grandparents in them as well.
You're so much like her.
And we have our other sons and all that. One of them, their kids are just really quiet and mellow.
Yeah, and the other one's
calm and all that. And the other two are
Oh my
like,
gosh.
wow.
That's what I
And they're both fun because you get that taste of both of them.
Yeah.
You know, one she's so quiet, she'll come up
Emma's
and
like
hug
so
me. She's
sweet
so
and
quiet and
quiet.
sweet and all that. And the other one's just, when she sees you, she's just running to you. And the other one, they're just
Oh, it's
both
like,
running. It's like,
yeah.
you know, so it's good.
You get a little taste
It's
of
fun.
both.
Yeah, it's fun. They're just, God's gifted them in both of those ways. And so it's cool to see that, but that doesn't mean that I can't say that there's any favor among those.
Right.
Even among my grandchildren, there's no favor. They each bring a unique thing that's different about them that makes me love them. So what I love in one, I don't see in the other, but I love, see in the other. So,
Yeah.
but that's not what was going on here. They literally, these parents, pick favorites, and so. And we don't know, I mean, it doesn't necessarily say that they didn't, dislike or anything like that. We're just using this as a teaching example. So,
But Rebecca liked Jacob more than she liked
she was
favorite.
she was doing things that wasn't fair to the other one. Let's leave it at that. So that we can definitely see out here. It is
He was a
definitely
good one. Esau was good.
so like I said, it's okay to notice one that's more likely, but from that standpoint, they made their preferences known. Unfortunately, even to the children. I mean, even if you have a favorite, keep it to yourself, you know? Because
Yeah.
they made it known to the children, by their behavior, made it known to the children. There's, and that's what's the issue here is, what happens when a parent plays favorites like that? I mean, what's gonna happen
I
to the
can
relationship?
attest to that. I had my father's mother, so my paternal grandmother, favored my cousins more than over me and my brothers. And that leaves a lasting impression on you.
Mhm. Yeah. I had, when I was growing up, this of course my grandparents, not my parents, but I had one of my grandparents, all my grandparents are gone, so no one's gonna hear me. They've been gone a long time ago. But I noticed that when one of my cousins, which I love my cousin, he's still around and he's a great guy. But I noticed that when he shook his hand, that he always slipped money into our hand, my grandpa. That was his way of being affectionate. He'd slip money, like you'd shake his hand and he'd slip money. Well, he'd slip me like $1. He'd slip my cousin $5. It's like, I noticed this. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. No, granted, my cousin lived next door. I mean, they were right next door. I mean, literally, they could walk. I mean, from here from Susan's, how close they were. So I get it. As an older person, he was just around
You
more.
have your favorite.
He was around more. And so, but as a kid, I noticed that. I know his intentions wasn't anything malicious, but I noticed it. And that's what's going on here. They're noticing it.
Yeah, and even Christmas time, we have 11 grandkids, 7 kids all together. So when we get together and do Christmas, we always try to make sure we have the same amount that we spend on each kid. So like my daughter-in-law would say, hey, she would like to have this for Christmas. And I'll say, well, I'm not spending over this amount because I spend the same amount for each one.
This one here would sit there and count the present. This one got 7, gotta get this one
Yeah,
7.
and they know. Kids
Well,
know.
that's because when we were growing up, my brother, because it was 4 girls and 1 boy, I'm the baby. My brother, if one of the girls got more than him, he threw a fit. I was like, we ain't doing that. Our kids are all gonna have the same.
Yeah, and that's what I
So
told them.
the kids, grandkids, they all have the same amount.
And if this gift is a bigger gift, it might cost a little more, well, then I'll buy, that gift if it's within the range, but I'll buy this one 3 or 4 things because it's
Right.
within the same range.
Yeah.
But I'll tell them, look, if I get this big gift, you're not getting nothing else, or
Yeah,
something,
so, I mean, I grew up, I had kids, when I had my kids were really young before Sandy. I didn't have a lot of money. So I couldn't get the big gifts for everybody for Christmas. So we had a rotation, like every year, it's like, okay, one kid's gonna get, and they all knew it. So they were all cool with it because they knew their year's coming, that they were gonna get. So we kind of had to, but we made it fair, as fair as we could, trying to get them at least once, once every, that time I only had 3 at home. Every 3 years, they'd know that their big time would come up, because Trey was just a baby at the time. He didn't know. He wouldn't know any better.
We have one that just says, I'll say, tell me some stuff you want for Christmas, and she's like, I don't know, I don't need anything, I don't care. Okay, well then go get anything, and so then her daddy turned around, I found out, and wrote a note, and she opened up about 10 boxes, and the note in the bottom of the last little box said, this is nothing. Like you didn't get nothing because you didn't want nothing, but yeah.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Didn't like
So
that.
anyway, we're gonna see a little bit more of the dynamic that happens, so it's building up to the next stage here. So verses 29 through, that's not in your book, but it's in the Bible. Once when Jacob was cooking a stew, Esau came in from the field exhausted. He said to Jacob, let me eat some of that red stuff because I'm exhausted. That is why he was also named Edom. Jacob replied, first sell me your birthright. This is Jacob being conniving. Look, said Esau, I'm about to die, so what good is a birthright to me? Of course, he's being melodramatic at this point. Jacob said, swear to me first. So he swore to Jacob and sold his birthright to him. Then Jacob gave bread and lentil stew to Esau. He ate, drank, and got up and went away. So Esau despised his birthright. So the kids were already having some conflict here now, later on in life here. They were already having some conflict with it. So this whole favoritism stuff is just going to get even worse, make the situation worse. So we'll jump into chapter 27 now. So Isaac, remember, he was already 60 when they were born. So he's probably at a pretty advanced stage by the time. These are grown men at this point. So when Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could not see, I can relate to that. At least for the last 8 weeks, he called his older son Esau and said to him, "My son," and he answered, "Here I am." He said, "Look, I am old and do not know the day of my death. So now take your hunting gear, your quiver and bow, and go out into the field to hunt some game for me. Then make me a delicious meal that I love and bring it to me to eat so that I can bless you before I die." So the reality is that actually he lived quite a bit longer, so he was being a little premature. So he lived, 140 years or something? I mean, he was a while. He died a very old man. So I guess he was blind all that time, though. But anyway, so the next verse is kind of, this was going on, and so now we get to our focus verses, chapter 27, verses 5 to 10. Now Rebekah was listening to what Isaac said to his son Esau. So while Esau went to the field to hunt some game to bring in, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Listen, I heard your father talking with your brother Esau. He said, 'Bring me game and make a delicious meal for me to eat so I can bless you in the Lord's presence before I die. Now my son, listen to me and do what I tell you. Go to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, and I will make them into a delicious meal for your father, the kind he loves. Then take it to your father to eat so he may bless you before he dies.'" So blessing somebody is endowing them with power and prosperity, and just that they would be have longevity and fruitfulness and all these things. And it usually typically belongs to the first male-born child, which in this case is who Esau is, because he came out before. So this would be his natural thing, is to bless Esau. But Rebekah was listening. Now, we don't know if this was intentional eavesdropping or she just overheard what was going on. I don't know. I don't necessarily think it was maybe an accident. Maybe she was being a little on the nosy side, considering her personality that we're seeing coming out here. But she did listen. She heard what was going on. And so she wanted to make sure that this blessing and this importance of this blessing that coming from Isaac would be something that would be for her preferential child, which in this case is Jacob. Now, what we already know is that God's already said who's going to be the one that's going to be the leader. He's already told them that it's going to be Jacob and not Esau. It's already been said, but she's not necessarily trusting what God's saying here. She's going to try to deceive by playing favorites. What's Rebekah teaching Jacob here?
Be deceitful.
To be deceitful.
But not only that, but as a wife,
Mhm.
she was really wrong to him.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about the son.
You're right. That's a good viewpoint. I didn't even think about that. She
she
wasn't
really-
even trusting her husband to make good decisions here.
Yeah, she went behind his back pretty
He went
much.
behind
I
her
don't
back to
think
get
that was
her
good.
what she wanted to be as her way, to her
Yeah.
favor get the
Yeah, it's
preferential
like you do
treatment.
this and,
I can't imagine how hurtful that could have been to Jacob. That had to mess with his head a little bit, I'm sure.
you didn't listen.
You know,
You didn't trust me.
and also she wasn't trusting God to what she's already been told of what's going to be. It was, and she already knew. She already knew that it wasn't something that on the other hand, it wasn't necessarily something about the taste of the food. She knew she was going to be able to deceive him.
Mhm.
She knew it. It was, and on his side, he was wanting his son, the hunter, the guy, to come back and bring the meal. And bring the good food.
Good
Yeah,
guy.
wanted to be proud of what
Yeah.
the son, the hunter, was going to do, and was going to bring that back, that good meal. And so it wasn't the taste of the food, because he was fooled. But he was also prideful that mighty son, the mighty hunter, that what he was gonna do and bring back that food. So he was assured of that. You know, like I said, you know, Rebecca had already failed, you know, to trust what God had already said. Remember back in verse 25, we're already told in chapter 25, verse 23, that one will be stronger than the other and the older will serve the younger. We're already told that. I mean, it's already been told to them. They already know the outcome. And so we see that, you know, that deception that's going to start taking place. And she is training her, she's already won playing a favorite, and then now she's going beyond just playing favorites. Now she's teaching her son to be deceptive to his father. I mean, what a way to start your relationship. It's like, oh, don't listen to dad, or don't trust dad. And that's a big thing. That's an undermining thing. That's another lesson underneath all this. Is how,
So men don't like that.
yeah, don't undermine, or either way. I mean, just as, one thing you always say is, of course, we ask our children, like, what did your mother say about that? And they don't always tell us the
Where's
truth. So
daddy?
then you gotta confirm it with mother what she really said, because sometimes if they know you're not gonna check on them, they say, well, mom said it was okay, you've heard that, or well, dad said it was okay, so you gotta be on the same page, and so they were not on the same page with this at all. They were two parents parenting completely different ways. One was playing favorites, one was teaching deception, the other one was playing favorites as well. So they were both equally at fault here, probably more on the Rebecca side than Isaac. But definitely both of them were culpable in this situation. Both of them were being
It
prideful.
would be interesting to see how the whole story would have played out if Jacob had come out first.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because then Esau would still be the hunter and would,
It'd still be
Right,
one that Isaac identified with. You're right.
Right.
That's a very good point. That Isaac would have identified with the one that was the hunter, and not the one that was more quiet and the mama's boy. That's what it amounts to. Jacob was the mama's boy.
it would be interesting how the story would have played out that.
Yeah.
But said he was grabbing his
And there's
heel when he
nothing
was
wrong
coming
with the
out.
mama's boy,
He was-
because I was one myself. Thank you
He
very
clung
much.
to his brother, but he clung to his brother, so, you wonder, did they have a good relationship? Esau and,
They did not. And so there was jealousy from the very beginning.
see, that's what I'm saying.
Stuff like
He
that.
hung on to his heel, coming out the womb, they said.
But was that poor relationship a result of the parenting?
Yeah, and so you see that Jacob, is doing all this conniving and stuff like that. But the reality is that, we as we read through Genesis, he gets a little payback through that. So he ended up getting done to him just like he did. He just was deceiving to others. He gets deceived himself later on. So he gets a little taste of his own medicine. God humbles him in that respect. Anyway, so Genesis chapter 27, verses 11 to 15. Jacob answered Rebekah, his mother, "Look, my brother Esau is a hairy man, but I am a man with smooth skin. Suppose my father touches me, then I will be revealed to him as a deceiver and bring a curse rather than a blessing on myself." His mother said to him, "Your curse be on me, my son. Just obey me and go get them for me."
So she took the blame.
Yeah, in a sense.
No.
But Jacob right here, what does Jacob know? Jacob knows he's doing
He
wrong.
knows this.
He knows he's
Mama's
doing
making him
wrong.
do something he ain't
His
supposed to
mama's telling him what to do wrong, and he knows it. He identifies it. That I'm going to be revealed. Yeah,
I don't think he had a problem with doing
he
wrong.
didn't have a problem with it.
The problem he had was
Getting
if
caught.
he got caught, it wouldn't be mom, it would be me.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't
You're
the doing
right.
the wrong.
You nailed it. I
He got
think
caught.
you done learned from Mama that this is the way we do things.
But if he
I've
got
already-
caught,
because
like I said.
he's already deceived his brother Esau already once. He's already taken his help me here.
Birthright.
Birthright. He'd already taken his birthright and won him out of his birthright. So his
Well,
nature
did
was
Esau say, yeah,
It was
I'll
supply-
tell you anything.
supply and
to get that
demand,
food, but I'm here to tell you, you try to take my birthright and I'll pummel you.
Yeah, supply and demand, right? He had to supply, he was just being a good businessman, right?
Whatever, give me something to eat or I'll beat you half to death.
Yeah, that's probably what he should have said. But Jacob, like I said, he knew it was right, but he was more concerned about being caught.
Right.
Than,
Yeah.
and
And would she get in trouble, or would he get in trouble?
yeah, and she's encouraging him to sin. Have you ever had a situation where, questionable things, that you encourage someone to do things that may not be the right thing to do? Taking advantage of a situation that may not be, it's like, sometimes we get in some situations where there's some gray area and it's really hard to, really should I do that? It's,
Can I bring up
Huh?
the wreck?
huh?
Can I bring up something?
Absolutely.
Last week, and Tina didn't know about it too, I was trying to see if Bobby Delaney in here, but, we went to our grow meeting the other day and I told him about it. I seen a wreck. It's the second time I seen it, going down Sims, I'm almost to the stop sign, he's on my speakerphone, but he's on the phone with me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's another one. But this car comes around the curve, he goes right into the first house driveway or whatever, he goes into the ditch, comes back out and lands, the airbags blow, there's two people in the car, and my first thing is to pull over and see if they're okay. Some people said, well, I wouldn't even stop, I'd have just, none
Yeah,
of
a
my
lot of
business.
people say that.
you know? But it went into the first yard where recently that happened, except it was the second yard and hit the mailbox. But it just happened the same way. It was like deja vu. So anyway, the car goes into the ditch and the lady lives in the second house, the same lady, her name's Donna. She comes out, she's there, she's seen the whole thing, I've seen the whole thing. They get out the car and the boy gets out the driver's side, the girl gets out the passenger side. So I pull over to see if they're okay, and he had some blood on his shirt. And of course the lady's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking, did he get hurt? And he didn't need an ambulance, he said, but the cops came out. He was 13 years old.
Wow.
He didn't have a driver's license, he didn't have insurance. She claimed her daddy had just died 3 hours ago. She wasn't crying or anything, she's like, yeah, my dad just died, everything's just been rough
So
lately.
this is the time that
She was
she's like, get how to
supposedly
drive.
teaching him how to drive. It looked like he was on the other lane, coming from Pine, end of the line or whatever, and he was going toward Watson. And so when he came across, he just went straight into the ditch. And when I seen the whole thing, and so my question was, what would I do, okay? So the lady Donna said, I'm not lying for anybody. But the girl said, I was driving. Because she knew he was 13, and she said, I was driving. Because he didn't have insurance, he didn't have a license, she said I was teaching him how to drive. She even said that, I was teaching him how to drive. But I think he hit the gas instead of the brake, and he went straight into the ditch. And so, when the cops got there, of course, we told the guy, she said she was driving, but she wasn't. Anyway, so I don't know whatever happened, because I had to leave. My mom's at the place, I had to go bring her something, but anyway, so I stayed for a while, and made sure he was okay. And, the girl, Donna, said, I'm not lying. I don't lie. And the first thing that hit me was, she took her car and moved it onto Sims Road in the opposite lane where people couldn't turn in. I'm like, why is she moving her car? So, I'm gonna try to hurry, but when she moved her car, here comes Kimberly going to get some medicine, and they had an ambulance and a fire truck, and everybody was out, the cop pulled up on 16, and I thought, that could have been my daughter he could have hit. How could I lie? Because he could have hit somebody and killed him, he could have killed himself, but at this point, when Kimberly rode by, what are you doing? The first thing that hit me was Jeannie, and I thought, how could you just not tell somebody the truth? So my question was, you hear she's lying,
Yeah, and so with that situation, that parent is encouraging that child to lie. And then when that child lies to them,
It was a sister.
or, what, oh, it was the sisters?
It was the sister in the passenger seat, yeah.
Um,
She said, I was driving. So
and
where's the
so-
mama down the road?
Well, we don't know where mom is, but we, been guilty
You hurt
myself,
somebody.
been guilty myself. I'll tell myself that, when my kids were younger, much younger and all that, and my kids weren't big eaters, so but going to like Gaddy's, they wanna know your kid's age, you know, or wherever, or some of these other places, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, when
They're
you got this
12.
12, they got, you'll have to pay like full price or whatever, and I want to pay by the age and all that, it's like, and they're, you know, he's a small, you know, he's a big eater, I'm not taking advantage of him or anything like that.
But you encourage a
But
child to lie
my
and say, I'm
kid is
12.
seeing me lie, and then when they lie to me, I'm wondering, why are you lying to me?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, Dad, you taught me kind of situations, what it ends up being, you know, I've learned from you, you know? There's a song about that, you know, what's that song that talks about, I learned it from you, Dad, or something like
What's
that?
about?
Cats in the Cradle.
You right?
Turned out just like
Oh.
you.
Yeah, turned out
Cats
just
in the
like you,
Cats
yeah.
in the Cradle. by
Cats in the
Cat-
Cradle.
Yeah, that's
That
another
was
one that
a
does
biggie for me.
it. So, I mean, but so she, you know, this is the situation here. Rebecca is teaching her child by her own behavior to be deceptive, and so. you
And
know,
Jacob could lie about other stuff since he thought, well, I'll get in trouble, Dad might figure this out. But what other things did he do maybe?
Yeah, so we have to be very, very careful that our children are always, and grandchildren, for most of us here in this room, it's grandchildren, are watching us at all times, and watching us how we react to other people and how we deal with other people. And how we deal with the other spouse. You're like, you know, I'm gonna buy this, don't tell Daddy. You know, no, you can't do that. You know, don't tell Daddy I'm buying this new bag or whatever, you know, this new purse, this new, whatever. I don't know, I can't think of any things.
Well, like spending money on
Shoes,
something.
Shoes, jewelry.
Well, spending money on something that you know he wouldn't agree with or something,
Yeah,
you know, just doing it on your own without.
Yeah, or, you know, we're gonna go do this, and I know he doesn't like us doing this, or whatever, you know, so, I mean, we can't be that way, and it's really hard, because we're, you know, basically, we're all dysfunctional, we're all not perfect, but this is an example we see here, God's teaching, you know, teaching us through this, you know, you know, a lot of times God in the Bible, will a lot of times show us things, not show us great examples. Sometimes he does, of great examples of people, but he also shows us great examples of what not to be. And this is one of those examples of showing you, this is probably not a good model of how to be a.
Well, and the other thing, do you feel guilty when you do those things?
Yeah.
You know, it's like you feel a guilt, but if you really know it's wrong, you feel guilty. It's like, man, I shouldn't have lied, you know, now I'm gonna get caught, he's gonna find out. You know, so in this story, you know, did he feel guilty? I mean, he knew his dad might find out.
But,
And then he would get the blame, not her, not Rebecca.
So we're told to love our neighbor as ourselves, right? So that's one of the things we've been talking about is, you know, we're supposed to love God and love others as ourselves. But, and when it comes to favoritism and stuff like that, and this can happen in families, this can happen at work, this can happen in any environment about favoritism. And so, but the scripture is really clear in the book of James in chapter 2, we're told in verse 8, indeed, if you fulfill the royal law, indeed, if you fulfill the royal law prescribed in the scripture, oh, I can't talk this morning, love your neighbor as yourself, you're doing well. If, however, you show favoritism, if you commit sin and are convicted by the law as transgressors. So, if you show favoritism, you're committing sin. You're not to show favoritism. You know. So what should Rebecca have done?
She should have let her husband bless Esau.
Yeah. She should have trusted God, right? Because they were told. She was only told she should have trusted God. She should have been on the same page with her husband, and equally her husband with her. You know, in same way, what should have Isaac done in this, you know, this situation as well? I mean,
You shouldn't have picked a favorite.
yeah, he should have picked a favorite as well,
Well, both of them had 2 children.
yeah, exactly.
Well, and then there's times Harold and I, we do disagree on stuff. I mean, every
Oh,
couple
absolutely.
disagrees, but I don't go do stuff behind his back. I'll go to him and say, hey, I think it should go this way, or you should do it this way. And he'll tell me the difference and what he thinks. I mean, you kind of got to have a mutual communication, you know, instead of hiding stuff behind each other.
Yeah.
We were at our son's house yesterday, because it was his birthday, And I asked my daughter-in-law how her brother's doing because he moved, he lives out of state, Colorado. And, she said, well, she said, I don't know, I haven't talked to him since the beginning of October, we had a disagreement. It's okay. And, she said, I said, I'm sorry. Well, during that disagreement, he screenshots the conversation and sends it to their mom. Hey, what do you think I should do? Do you think I'm wrong in this situation? She said, well, the only thing I'm gonna say is if you hurt your sister's feelings, you should apologize. So he was trying to put the mom in the middle to make her decide which one was right, which was wrong. And she told him, she said, you should apologize if you hurt her feelings.
Yeah, it's
You know?
probably not what he wanted to hear.
No, it wasn't. So,
It's like, oh,
Can you
that's not
believe what
I
they
wanted
did to me? So sometimes you're right in that sense that sometimes the kids wanna play the game too.
Right,
They wanna
yeah.
see, they're trying to test like who do you love
Yeah.
more?
Yeah.
Me or
Yeah, are you gonna take their side or my side?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that's hard.
Yeah, and you know, that situation comes up too, and how you handle it all means all the difference in the
Well,
world.
even, you know, like at home, I'll tell one of the kids to do something, and they're like, well, I was getting ready to go play or whatever, and then they'll go to mom and say, can I go outside and play? And I'm like, I just told you to do that.
right.
And it's like they play you know,
Mhm.
because they know mom will say it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Well,
so.
Yeah.
to quote Hank, you don't have to train your kid to be bad.
What about Jacob? What should he have done?
Like I said, no thanks.
Yeah,
Oh, Jacob.
Jacob. Yeah, so what should Jacob done? Maybe, you know,
Not listen to his mom and
yeah, of
talk to
course,
dad.
he was a kid, and that's a hard situation for Jacob,
Mom told
because
him
he
to
is
do
That's
the,
right.
he's the child, you know? I mean, it's hard as a child to point out, you know, Mom, that's just not right.
Yeah.
You know, that would
Yeah,
have
but
been the great
does he
thing for him
disobey
to have
his
done.
mother? You
But
know?
he's
Yeah.
not, he's a kid, I mean, he's young.
But does he disobey the
Not necessarily a
mother?
kid, but he's,
No.
he's young and he has a mother that,
Yeah.
you know, when your parent, does play a favor and pushes all that into you, kinda wanna please them because, hey, I'm getting all this preferential treatment, I may wanna make sure I do what makes mom happy, you know?
But he was the favorite to her, and he probably knew that, you know, she loves me, you
Yeah.
know? And so he didn't wanna disobey her in one sense, but he knew it wasn't right, but he thought, you know, had I not listened to what mama just told me to do, you know?
Yeah, and,
Well, if they're truly playing favorites, he already feels like he only has one parent.
Right.
Alienate himself
there
from
you
that
go.
one.
There you go,
Right,
you're
right.
right, you're right. He was a smooth skinned one, he wasn't the hairy one, he was like this,
I would
no
do it.
hair, you know?
I'm making careless.
Hairless. So, yeah.
I wonder why
that's
they
the
mentioned
point.
that, the hairy and the smooth. It means one's more
I
played
don't know.
down than the other one?
I don't know.
The hairy one's tougher?
I have, yeah,
I
I
don't
have
know.
no idea.
Just that there's an obvious difference that
There's
you
an
don't
obvious
have to
difference.
see.
There's an obvious difference.
If you touch, you will know.
Yeah, yeah, so,
It's an obvious difference.
I guess it also when he gets near the smell of one would be the hairy hunter,
Yeah, that's all.
you know, that kind of smell versus the one that may be wearing like a polo or something. I don't know. You know, it smells good. They're like, wait a minute, that's the good smelling one. That's the one Mama wants. I want a I don't know. I'm not sure. But what can we learn from this? We have to be conscious of that, right? That it's difficult to sometimes, you do see, you know, in one of your children, sometimes you see more that you relate to that one more, and you get along with that one more. But you gotta make sure that you make that effort to the other ones as well, even though sometimes you're just like, I don't understand what they're doing and why they act the way they do. It's like, are they mine or not, you know?
Well, the other thing is boys versus girls. I have boys who are married and they're always busy. And I talk to their daughter, I mean, their wives, daughter-in-laws, but then the girl lives with me, so, you know, you have to be careful that you don't overdo for one than the others. And then the other one lives out of town and she never has a phone. But I mean, it's hard to pick girls from the boys, you know? And I don't wanna do more for this one than I do for this one, you know? I don't see them a lot, but when I do, I let them know what they mean to me, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't, you know, God, you know, God loves us, and He loves us in a way that He's, that He's not playing favorites. He equally gives us all the ability to come to Him and receive salvation and receive adoption into His family. So what? Anyway, well, I'm going to go ahead and close, and then we'll get into our prayer request. Father God, we just thank you so much, Father. Lord, that we see a story of what it is, a little example of what it is maybe not to be as a parent, but how resolution can happen, Father, with being a parent, Lord, and just treating our children with equal amount of affection, equal amount, and not showing favoritism, because you loved us, Father, all, Father. You don't love one of us more than you love the others, Father, that we all have a special part and a special part of your family. And Father, we just thank you for that. We thank you for all these things in Christ's name.
Amen.